this is what I like about this industry. You never have the same experience twice. That's wild. It's a wild combination of storytelling and who's going to be involved and the filmmakers and show creators. And so those combinations I like alchemy. So even in music, I like writing with people rather than just being a solo artist.
As Alma said, I'm Perri, and I'm very happy to be here right now, moderating this career retrospective with the one and only Juliette Lewis.
Can I just say thank you for coming down on a Saturday, right before the holidays? We're doing this.
Hello and congratulations on everything.
Thank you.
It's not possible to get to all of your credits in an hour and 15 minutes, but we're going to get to as much as we possibly can. But I always like starting at the very, very beginning. What is the movie, performance, personal experience, you name it, that first made you say to yourself, I have to be an actor and nothing else?
That moved me. You know, it's very funny because people may not associate me with these things, but they're musicals. So it's Hair. And they're all very dramatic, made me sob. Rocky Horror Picture Show. You might be able to see that somewhere in my DNA. I think it was Rocky Horror Picture Show, that ending scene when they're all in the pool and like the dream is over and weeping, the mascara. So it affected my 11-year-old heart.
There's a card in this pile that's going to get to that later. I already spied that particular question. I think you'll like it. Before we get there, though, so you knew the dream was to become an actor, but do you remember the very first movie you did, even a specific scene that made acting an itch that you kept needing to scratch, a feeling that you keep having to have in your life after that?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a multifaceted thing for me, the way I see creativity, because it really started as a kid. I'm one of those who lived in their imagination a lot. And I have to credit Karen Black, the actress Karen Black, who I considered like a second or a first creative mother. Both my parents were very pro-art and pro-make-believe. And and I read fairy books. So if I'm gonna be really honest, I'm just gonna get wild with you here. This is the first thing that made me want to dance in the unknown or make believe and dream were these fairy books. And my mom is an illustrator, and she drew fairies and pictures of families. And this would just set my imagination on fire. And then later, when I got into cinema and performances, they're always, you could imagine this of me, they're always really gut-wrenching things like Frances, Jessica Lange and Frances. That's one of those tour de force where you're, stumbling around and afterwards, and it doesn't leave you. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Midnight Express. I was really drawn to these what-if scenarios and how to live through the darkest experience.
It's one of my favorite qualities about any show or movie that I watch, it leaving me with that question in my mind, like, what would I do in that particular situation? Your most recent thing that we've discussed it before, Yellowjackets.
Yeah.
What would I do in that situation?
Yes.
Probably not survive. That is the answer to that. Going back to Karen really quickly, functioning as a creative mentor for you, is there anything that she suggested to you even way back then, before you even started an official career, that you still find yourself referring back to today?
Yes. And I can, I'm like, am I gonna weep? I do weird things. Like I laugh and then I'm crying and then I'm like, okay, let's keep it together, Lewis. We would play charades at her house as kids, and I was about 9 years old. She was a friend of my father's. and all the kids would get together and do charades, but her charades had no rules. Could sort of be and do anything you wanted. And I played, I don't know how I came up with it, a homeless woman who just discovered her shoe. And Karen, no, I don't even, she might be able to tell us better if she were here, but she goes, she gave, so to answer your question, she gave me an awe look. She went, oh, that is brilliant, Juliette. And I was like, oh my God, what is this power? You know, and I was like 9 going, and I didn't even know, and that has followed me even in my youth. Like, I didn't understand yet the gift or what it is that I do or naturalism or anything. So it's now, here I am 30 years later, I understand a little bit of my skill set. But at 9 years old, I was like, it was almost like she had a magic wand and she was like, you, my dear, you have the gift. And I was like, what is this wow thing she's talking about? But it was a game of charades.
I love that memory. That kind of creativity is important and has clearly served you quite well over the years.
Yeah, oh, thanks. But it's also, you'll find along your path people who see you. Because this career, I could name on a hand how many people who sort of witness or give to you or provide this space for you to dance, metaphorically. And she saw me in that moment, things in me that I didn't see in myself.
I really want every name on that list, but so we could still get to more of your
credits.
They'll
be in there.
Can you share maybe one other person that made you feel that way?
Well, I mean, come on, Martin Scorsese.
I didn't expect you to name that name. Who's that?
I consider all the directors that you'll know of, I mean, I just happen to have been lucky to work with the auteurs of cinema, American cinema, with Oliver Stone, Scorsese, Lasse Hallström, Catherine Bigelow, and yeah, how's that? I was so young too.
You really have worked with some of the best of the best.
Yeah. But he was really, Scorsese was the first, but we'll get to that because I have so much to say about him.
Before we even get to some of those really big titles that are absolute must discusses here, what is the project that got you your SAG card?
Oh, that's such a good point, Meryl. Because I did a college film. I was 11. No, sorry, I was playing 11, but I was like 13, so I had like knee-high socks. And it was someone's student film, so that would not have gotten me my SAG card. I want to say it's one of these TV shows I did. Oh, well, here's a full circle moment. I did a mini-series for Showtime. That was the first theatrical thing I'd done. Actually, was that my first job? We could probably Google it. It was called Home Fires for Showtime. Yeah, and I probably got my SAG card from that.
This is what happens when you have so many incredible memories and incredible credits on your filmography. You can't keep them all straight, so I'm glad that you couldn't think of the title there.
Yeah, and I might be confusing these two stories. Oh, I'm not gonna cuss. I was about to go, ooh, because I'm confusing two first jobs. Okay, whatever, I digress.
Before we get into a specific title, when you're first starting out, you're new to the industry and you're auditioning, it can be very challenging. What is an early audition high? Something that made you feel really good and like you belonged here, but then also what is an audition low that you experienced and what did you learn from that low that you were then able to apply to future auditions?
Wow, yeah, I've had a lot of lows. I mean, this is show business. Let's see, one of these moments, because we just did a little video out there and I like to tell actors, even my friends, like my brother-in-law who's telling me about an audition, and I have to remind myself of this, don't play it safe. Make a specific choice, make a brave choice, just out of your own imagination, because that's what makes you you. As opposed to, we always want to do it right, and there's so many versions of what if you're playing like an office worker or an angry girlfriend in a scene or whatever, there's so many combinations of how to play that. And so this first memory I'm remembering was that it was a TV show. Oh, now I'm forgetting it. Fred Savage.
Wonder Years.
Thank you. The Wonder Years. I auditioned for the girlfriend of the brother, and on a whim, I went, you know what? I'm going to chew gum for this. And I chewed gum, and the whole character, they wrote it into the thing. So not only did I get the part, but they liked my thing, and every scene she's chewing gum and stretching gum. Really obnoxious, but it was fitting for that time. You know, it was the 50s, and so that things like that was like, oh, I should try that more often. Like come up with my own little ideas. Yeah.
Speaking of that and having your voice heard in the audition space like that, I know you must have had some good experiences working as a child actor in the business, but do you remember the very first project that made you feel like an adult in terms of your creative input on something being heard in a different way?
Yeah. Well, we also didn't say the low. I'll just say the lows. Oh. By and large, it's the same thing, you know, like, not pretty enough. She's not sexy. She's not. All these very narrow things. Especially, I started auditioning in the '80s, and wait, was it the '80s? Wait. Oh yeah. I was like, oh my God, don't age yourself so much. I think it was in the late '80s on sitcoms, and you know, it's very narrow. But for whatever reason, because I was raised by two artists who never really, my superficial was never the thing to focus on, I kind of was like, I'm not for you. So I say that, but I'm a real sensitive and stuff, but I did build this kind of Teflon thing that I would come back to. Like I'll find who's meant for me, what project that is. And yeah, okay, that was
You definitely did.
Going
back to what you had talked about a little before, what was the first project that made you feel not like a child actor anymore, but an adult whose creative input was changing your character in the project?
Yeah, there's a few things. I want to say Cape Fear, but no, I was still someone who couldn't articulate myself. I would just do it. So, and that's what Scorsese validated in me, my instincts, and he really provided the runway for it, and was a huge teacher for me in that regard. But where I felt like an adult, where I was playing in the big leagues, was Natural Born Killers. Yeah. I mean, I'm 19 years old in that, and so punk. And the choices I was making. But again, Oliver Stone, you look back in hindsight, he's not known for his niceties, right? But what he is a great lover of creativity, and he wants all of it. So I would literally like write scenes. I thought of like, I'm thinking she might be yelling like a banshee in this. You want to see it? And he'd be like, yeah, do that. And so that was the movie where any idea, absurd, you make an ass out of yourself. I think that's what I never came into this industry trying to be cool. I just wanted to be, daring.
It's funny you say the word cool, because I was rewatching, I think it was the 30th anniversary panel for Christmas Vacation, and I think your co-stars did refer to you as cool, but more specifically, they praised your professionalism at that age. So before having done that movie, was there anyone in your life that kind of steered you in the right direction and basically gave you the ability to carry yourself like that on set at such a young age?
Well, my dad. Jeffrey Lewis. Sorry. You don't realize it later when you look back, and I would visit him on sets, and so they were safe spaces for me early on because of my dad's history on Westerns, on Laverne and Shirley, on Every Job Under the Sun, because he was a character actor. And so that I looked at that as a magical, noble profession with no division in leading or this, that. And so there's pictures of me like hanging out with the cowboys in between takes on the sand, and I'm like, let me play with the fake rubber knife, or and I could be a cowboy or a princess or whatever. And then I remember, so my whole early idea was it was long hours, always people from all walks of life came to make believe. And you're there to do a job, like it was real. And I'd hang out in the makeup and hair trailer who babysat me. Nothing's changed. All actors know this. They babysit us at times. So my professionalism, though, was learned through my dad. And then also, ironically, I mean, people might guess this from me, but like all people, you can be contradictions, a dichotomy. So my jobs gave me structure. They gave me a schedule, an integrity, a sense of purpose, and there were things that I needed at the time. It kept me out of trouble, ironically, until trouble found me. That's always the joke I tell later, but it was good for me, oddly, in my teens. I mean, before fame came.
Earlier in that answer, you brought up the idea of a set feeling like a safe space for you as a kid. What is something that you experienced when you were young and on those sets that you've held tight to and want to make sure you give to your collaborators and co-stars now?
Oh, that's really sweet. Well, it's funny when you become the grown-up, where I become the Jessica Lange, what she was to me when I was in Cape Fear. The first thing I like to tell people, especially when I've worked with a lot of actors, it's their second job, their first job, and the first thing I tell them is, you belong here. Your talent got you here. So, because I had that as, I know I'm known sometimes for confidence, but I have all kinds of head trips that I have to overcome, and sometimes we psych ourselves out, like, what am I doing here? I don't belong. And so it's the first thing I like to tell people, and we'll run lines. I like running the scenes over and over again to keep it fresh. Yeah.
I'm jumping all over the place, but you're giving me a lot of ideas for follow-up questions.
Okay.
Recently, whether it's Yellowjackets and some other films, you've had the opportunity to work with a lot of really exciting, young, up-and-coming talent. I know there's probably a million answers to this question, but to highlight at least one person now, is there anyone that's newer to the industry that did something on set that made you go like, whoa, like, how did I never think to do that when I was younger? And you think that the world should know about them fast?
Well, I will say, there's two people that come to mind right away. Oh no, now there's three. And they're all going to be doing amazing things. Jordan Alexander, who's in Gossip Girl. I worked with her on her first job. It was just a few years ago. She would listen to music, and she's in her text, like just in it. And that's admirable to me. For me, anything but autopilot, I think, right? I mean, it's a balance of you don't want to stress yourself out, but like even when I work today, I'm never that relaxed. I'm always like wound like this, because I don't know, because I feel so strongly about the space of it. I feel it's magic making, that's what I aim for. So Jordan Alexander, Sophie Thatcher, who's in Yellowjackets.
So good.
She's phenomenal. And a lot of these people, they're just multifaceted, because she's a brilliant artist, a musician, and you see her style. I'm just like, I never had that kind of style at your age. She's got a good head on her shoulders, but she's very smart. And so she plays younger me. How strange is that?
Perfect pairing. This is the way I explained it to you the last time we spoke. If you had given me like your headshots, I might have said like, I don't know about this, but it's the way you deliver your lines and you carry yourselves in the role that make me fully believe that you two are the same person, even though you're at different places in your life.
Isn't that wild?
It really, it's acting. It's special.
Yeah.
I can't do these types of things, but everyone here can.
Yeah.
Getting into some specific
Wait,
titles.
I do want to say one more. My third one recently is Welcome to Chippendales is Spencer Boldman. Spencer plays Lance, a hunk, and he's just he looks like a professional Chippendales dancer, and that's a guy, also, Quentin, Quentin Pilar. I might be butchering his last name. They're both in Welcome to Chippendales, but they just gave everything that I wouldn't actually have been able to do. They play Chippendales dancers and are dramatic, but Spencer's fully transforming. He's playing like a goofy, feather-haired dreamboat and back in time, and he's not like that at all. So I love when I see people transform.
I love it. I love having people to keep an eye out for. Let's get into Cape Fear. With that one in particular, I feel like oftentimes when someone brings up a particular scene of that movie, it's the school scene, the theater scene. When you think about it in terms of the moment you're most proud of, is that where your mind immediately goes? Or is there something else that makes you think like, yeah, that scene is great, guys, but look at this one. I was so proud of that one.
No, that's a good 9-minute scene.
I know you've probably talked about that scene quite a bit.
I heard they show it in some schools.
Just a little bit.
Sometimes. No. I didn't know at the time how unusual it was to have a 9-minute scene. So Marty was the one who said, it's 9 minutes, just two people, and the other guy being De Niro. But doing a psychological tango is how I describe it. And it was really wild, that journey, because people, there's negatives obviously in this business, because people didn't understand I knew what I was doing. They thought they found some girl who's just like that. And everybody here knows you have to know things to play, even naivete or an ingenue or what have you. There's a Rubik's Cube, there's a riddle to humanity and a personality. And so we do a lot of dimensions in that scene. So I like that. And then I was also just figuring out at that time behavior. And so if you look at just how I move and stuff, again, that's not necessarily how I am, but I had also come from sitcoms where they wanted me to stand up straight and project and be like, yeah, Dad, I told you, blah, blah, blah. Like that. I'm sorry, this is 1989. I was on sitcoms being a daughter. I have such a fun story. They hired an acting coach for me, probably to coach me out of my naturalism, slouching and whatever I was doing. And so then when I came to Scorsese, he was like, yes. He acknowledged all the things that right before they were trying to rid me of. I digress. My point is I was learning behavior and physicality, how to physicalize a personality, because she was very shy, so.
I don't know how well you remember any specifics about changes in that scene, but what would you say is the biggest difference between how you envisioned that scene and how you envision yourself playing it, walking into the very first day of shooting, and then ultimately the performance you delivered that we now see in the final film?
Well, I'm a big believer in let go and let God.
Fair enough.
No, I'm not you definitely have intention in scenes, in character, in story, but I don't have too much methodical, or expectation, because I know that'll inhibit what you might find in the moment. So my main thing was just being in each space, or each flavor of the piece. So like it's first she's looking, it's curiosity. And then when she lands, it's that little surprise. And I did remember he's the guy who's been calling her on the phone, all his little grooming things. So there's kind of a safe, but not really. Anyway, the whole thing is a dance. It's so brilliant. Because even the way Marty filmed it in a playhouse, a schoolhouse, it's on a stage. And it's sort of like he's luring her into, is it Goldilocks, where there's a witch and she gives you candy?
There you go.
Thank you.
That's the fairy tale.
Hansel and Gretel. He has a very Hansel and Gretel Wicked Witch vibe, but she doesn't know that. No, I remember lots of very specific things, and a couple of things where I knew I was going to be uncertain, and then where I'd be hooked in, but I didn't premeditate a whole lot. Yeah.
So that performance obviously got you an Oscar nomination, and I've heard you say that at the time you didn't know what it really meant to be nominated for an Oscar. Now looking back, what does that Oscar nomination mean to you?
I was thinking about it recently and what's really moving about it is that I didn't do press interviews. I wasn't, shaking hands. I didn't know any of that dance. So it was purely an acknowledgement of what I did. And that's remarkable in this business. I wish I could have, well, I couldn't. It was the world of energy. I was an introvert. So I didn't know what it all meant yet. And yeah, so it's pretty special.
So after, especially like nowadays, it feels like this happens often, and I wonder if this was your experience. After you get nominated for an Oscar, it is considered like a breakout opportunity. But the thing is, having a breakout like that is different from the people watching you have it compared to the person who might be experiencing it. So if that was indeed a breakout in your mind, what's a misconception about what it means to break out in the industry? But then also, what is an actual change that you think was happening for the better because of that?
Do you hear this woman's questions? Yeah, look at all those. Holy mackerel.
I wasn't schwitzing before now, but now I am.
Those are some layers. No, but I hear what you're saying. There's the inside and the outside of what went on. As you were saying that, it's... I'm a midlifer now. I love saying very dramatic terms. I'm a midlifer. Like I've been doing time. But I got out. Got out of the clink. No, that time though is, what's it when they go, tunnel vision, because I was so young and couldn't navigate the amount. I was very sensitive to energy. So when I was losing my anonymity, for instance, you go to get your coffee and you can feel a molecular shift in the space, but I didn't know what that was or why. And so I could just perceive it, and it makes my heart beat and stuff. So I was getting panic attacks. Those would come in crowds because I didn't know how to navigate what to do yet. So long story short is I wasn't fully aware of the breakout yet because things still weren't coming easy because I didn't want to then play that girl over and over again. So what I did right after that, I think I did we do California? No, I don't know the sequence. Was it What's in a Gallery? But somewhere I like to flip-flop. So I would do like, here's an ingenue. They don't know, they think I'm that girl. And then I'm like, oh, I'll show you. Let me play a killer. I do that. And then after that, but then you're known for what hits. Because after Natural Killers, I did a Nora Ephron, Steve Martin comedy with Adam Sandler that didn't really hit in the marketplace.
I watched that movie.
Cool. Mixed nuts.
Mixed nuts, yes. I thought it was really cool watching that movie over and over and over because I was a big fan of yours and Adam's.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, so people did see it.
Yeah. And Jon Stewart is in there on rollerblades. God bless him. Wait, who is it? Parker? Why am I forgetting his name? I'm nervous.
Parker Posey?
Yes, thank you. I'm doing a little flip-flop. Just, yeah, that's not cool. Parker Posey was in that. But anyway, to answer your question, I was still trying to prove myself. Also having my first love experience. You know, I was still trying to tunnel vision my way. I was being very young and not knowing about responsibility versus what everybody tells you. Like, you're young, enjoy it. So then I had to do my 4 months of clubbing in New York. Made sure to get that done. We made it.
You just said, prove yourself. Which project was it that proved to you that you know what you're doing and you need to trust your instincts?
Oh, wow. Gilbert Grape, What's Eating Gilbert Grape was really special. I've been fortunate to contribute a lot on these movies, just little improv lines or improv, some a lot of improv, some like What's Eating Gilbert Grape, there's a little line in there. But I've had where people, it's the people, I don't want to get all gushy on you, but it's the people that have told me what it is that, or my value to them. So, because as a creative or an artist, you're always questioning it, you're in competition sometimes with this, or I'm trying to break habits. You never want to be an imitation of yourself. I look at musicians like Prince. You know, we want Darling Nikki, but there was a whole time, I don't think he was ever playing Darling Nikki anymore. So, I digress. What was I saying? That proves to me
yourself.
I don't know. I'm always trying to, do other things things untried. But there are nowadays. There's so much content. There's so much out there. It took me this amount of time and really people's response to my work to then fully own my value, because they'll try to take it at any given turn. You not take it, but or at least diminish it. I say the ubiquitous they, but in business, sometimes business folks. Okay, sorry.
As you were just explaining that feeling of kind of getting that validation from the people around you, it was making me think of someone just mentioned this to me recently, the idea of falling into the habit of acting for Video Village, for the people behind the monitor. When you want to know you're nailing something on a set, who do you turn to? Where do you get that feeling, and has that feeling and that person changed over the years?
The camera department! Shout out to the camera crew. I've had people on the crew, because a lot of these TV shows too, your point people are not there because they're so busy writing the next episodes. And it's work, you're going real fast pace. So sometimes it's crew, but I don't try to look for validation, but it is very important to have someone say, good job. That was awesome.
We don't say that to each other enough. Not nearly.
Enough, yeah. At any line of work, just to say
Seriously.
Good job is a very big deal.
It's very
important.
true.
But that's when I pull out, I got a couple key compliments for life in my pocket from Scorsese, Oliver Stone. I'm like, they said blah, blah, blah.
See, you get those compliments from them are very, very important. But if, let's say you're approaching a new scene, it's looking like a challenging scene, you're nervous about it. Is there any particular scene you've done in the past that can make you think maybe if I did that then, I can do anything now?
No, I don't think that way. I mean, because you're not trying to look back, But there is something to be said for experience and muscle memory. Actually, you're right, because it'll be 3 a.m. I remember it being 3 a.m., having to play that I just discovered the murdered body of my father, and we did the wide, you're crying, looking out in the desert, and then they're like, that's lunch. All right, we're gonna do your close-up after lunch. And I was like, oh God, because all my body wants to do is sleep. So you're having, that's just some of the stuff I marvel at, is what a physical line of work you're using, and that's why I have 3 drinks. I'm made fun of at work. This is a protein shake, electrolytes, and water. At work, there's more. I just have an endless bag of fuel because I burn energy.
There's nothing to make fun of there. You're talking to someone who chugged a Red Bull right before we had this conversation. This is the smart assortment right there. Let's go back to jumping into some credits. In particular, Natural Born Killers. So many big, wonderful swings in that movie. Is there any particular one you took that made you stop and think to yourself, like, how is this ever going to work? And then it's wound up in the final cut of the film.
I mean, there's a lot. I love these questions because your mind will just drop in whatever it drops. It was probably when Oliver was doing the riot sequence with real prisoners. Things that wouldn't happen today. But it's funny because artists they bring their history into their creative journeys, and his history is in the war. I mean, he was in Vietnam, and so you'll find a lot of. I love that I'm speaking for Oliver. We had a nice exchange recently. Maybe I don't know if he'll disagree, but I don't know. I see it in a lot of his early films. You'll see this chaos and a lot of fighting, and but anyway, it was probably how to pull off. He was using a blend of reality and heightened reality, and using some prisoners. Also, I was sick during the end. I had walking pneumonia the last 2 weeks of filming. Yeah, so when you talk about like little creative war stories, I'll be like, I walked through rattlesnakes, and I walked through rattlesnakes. Woody and I walked through live rattlesnakes and fake rattlesnakes. And so it's only in hindsight you're like, I can say that. And so when Woody and I see each other, it's like 2 soldiers. We're like, you and I, we both walked through rattlesnakes and didn't get bit. The working in a prison was a sensitive environment, very intense, lot of gunplay, lot of exquisite professionals in their fields to handle that environment. And even for what that movie is known for, it was a very safety-heavy set, because there are people who served in the military, who were retired, went to the movie business.
It sounds like him in particular, he's the type of director who wants you to take big swings. And I've heard in a couple of interviews you've done and folks that you've worked with that you like to have variety in your takes. When you're working with a director or maybe a writer-director that wants you to stick to the script, how do you stick to how you like to work, but also respect their preference in that respect?
Absolutely. So this is the difference, because I'm not a person who just changes the words for the sake of changing it. And actually, in TV, I barely make changes. I do just create with what's given. And if it's like a group scene, sometimes they want you to create like, oh, they're around the table talking about blah, 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 and then here's the scene. So they'll have us make up what we're talking about. We just did this on Yellowjackets. I really like to serve. And people would find it funny to know of me. I've worked with really, strong-willed actors who have a habit of maybe fighting the director and fighting producers. And I've been the diplomat, believe it or not, even though I'm the one who's known for having strong will herself. But no, I really respect the writers and the director. Wow, I have a whole De Niro story about that, actually.
Oh, I want to hear that story.
No, there's two key, actually you learn professionalism over time, and you learn that different environments require a different skill set sometimes. Because I have worked on a show where it was by the word. I don't work great if it has a feeling of micromanagement. What was I say? Oh, I think when I was younger and I talked to the press, I had no grace. And let's have empathy for little JL. The reason is because as a young woman, they're taking credit from me all the time. Like when I first came on the scene, they did not even until the nomination, but they kept saying, "How'd you get that performance out of her, Marty?" You know. It was all about everyone around me that got me to do what I do. So through time, you prove yourself. So anyway, you can have a little youthful chip. And I was young, defiant. So I remember seeing De Niro out at a dinner place one time, and he says to me, he's like, "I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do a bad De Niro impression." Where he's like, "Juliette, yeah, I saw the movie, Natural Born Killers." Anyway, he told me he saw Natural Born Killers. He's like, it was good. It's good. It's good. I was like, oh shit. He's giving me a compliment. He thought it was really good. And then I, out of insecurity, was like, yeah, I made up like half the dialogue in that. And I improvised a lot. Like just, that cockiness has insecurity at the bottom of it. Anyway, years later, when I did a tribute for Bob, I explained that anecdote because in that moment, he cut me off and he went, no. Don't ever disrespect the writer. Don't disrespect the writer. Don't disrespect your director. And I was like, oh, shit. that was a bad look. But he didn't yell at me. I just got it. I didn't even know what I was doing because I was just trying to say I did stuff, Anyway, that was funny.
I get that. It further emphasizes the fact that your craft and what you bring to a project is important, but it is a team effort.
Yeah.
And we need to respect what every single person brought to it in order to make that whole.
Yes.
I like that. The other sister, 2 year. I think you took 2 years off. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you took a 2-year break before doing that. What did you learn about yourself and particularly your craft during that break, and how did that influence how you approached your role in that film?
It was everything, because I feel like had I not taken that time off to just be with me after, the whole thing of you're successful, you got nominated, you got to do this movie, you got to stay on top, all that stuff, to take a break and just nurture this little wee tender young heart. That's what I did in that time, and learned how to just stand on my own 2 feet. I got sober in that time. I was 22. I don't like to talk about it so much because then it makes people think, because I didn't have some problem my whole life, but when I lost my anonymity, it was a bit too much, right? So that creating a foundation and being able to be with yourself and take care of your vulnerability then led me to the other sister. And that's what that character is. She's fighting for her independence, and she's all heart. She's all heart, innocence, and fight. And I never would have been able to play it if I was the, tunnel vision, sort of cocky, self-protecting 19-year-old. And Gary Marshall really gave me that opportunity to do that. And I auditioned for that. And I didn't have how she spoke. I hadn't researched because it's loosely based on the producer's sister. And I went, when you have nothing else, when you don't have a character, where's her voice placement? Because I like to play with my voice a lot, higher or lower. And you don't know how she moves. I just go for saying the words honestly and fully committing. And the words on the page, she's very much like an 8-year-old or 9-year-old sensibility. And so I just leaned into what is there before I found the rest of it. Yeah, and I got the part. That was cool.
I want to make sure we hit so many of your titles here in an effort to get at least 2 more right now. I love asking this question. Of all the actors that you've worked with, whose process was most similar to yours, where the second you hit set, you were immediately in sync? But then on the other hand, who's someone with a completely different approach to the work that challenged you to adapt and maybe try something new and for the better?
Man, I gotta go to Yellowjackets right now. I'm with a group of women who all work very similarly. We're all very like no nonsense. I mean, I publicly joked that Christina Ricci and myself are Betty and Joan for Betty Davis and Joan Crawford. So we're like, yeah, is the mic gonna be there? And we sit in the car and like, when I sit with her, it's like 2 old veterans. It's so funny to me. And we have all our like little idiosyncrasies of just, how to dive in and be. And so we work pretty similarly. I want to say no one's as like metaphysical as I am. No, I always joke that I'm like channeling to the cosmos. I don't know. But maybe I keep that to myself. Wait, what? Oh, that's interesting. Well, I've heard Jennifer Jason Leigh does all that really interesting stuff of like, well, I worked with her 100 years ago. I think I was 17. But she was writing a journal for her character, which I thought was so cool. I didn't do anything that was very academic or stuff like that. So anyway, that's to answer people who are similar. I love working with actors, honestly. I think we're all so different. All I ever want is like, commit, be prepared, don't be lazy. People who think they got it made and aren't uncomfortable, I'm like, what's your problem? I don't know. Not to be confused with you should be, relaxed. I don't know. It's a balance. It was so different. Giovanni Ribisi. He was method. I don't know if he calls it that, but he stayed in character the whole time. And I've known Giovanni for a very long time, friendly with his family. And so when we did The Other Sister, we would have lunch, and I was the opposite. I had to let go of that character. I mean, certain mannerisms, if you're staying in a space, like she laughed really loud, and I would always clap if I was excited in the movie. So I was doing that in my life then, like a kid. But I wasn't trying to be in character. I have to like let go of it because there's so much energy. I don't know. It's just a little bit different for me. He was staying in character, and we're just having lunch, talking about the scene, but he's fully Daniel, his character. That was really funny. Who am I to tell him, because that's what works for him, and you see his performance, but it would deplete me of my ability to do mine. So that's really interesting.
You two in that movie is something special.
Oh, that's sweet.
Here's one that I was dying to ask you about, because I love the movie Whip It. It was one of the first movies I ever covered when I started doing this work, and it inspired me to try roller derby. I'm a tiny, fragile person, and I got like absolutely crushed and then never continued again. Yeah. But it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad I had experienced it. What was it about Drew Barrymore as a leader on set that you really appreciated in that environment, and either have seen out there and continue to appreciate it, or hope to see on more sets in the future?
Drew Barrymore had, and I think it's what Scorsese had, Gary Marshall had, is enthusiasm. Like just could radiate and give that to lead an entire crew. Because you'll notice on sets that you work on, the energy on that set, I feel, comes from the top down. and she was also so prepared, did all her research, and she knew how to rally a group and a crew. We all prepared so much for that. But that was a classic, let's talk about auditions, like, hey, have you ever rollerbladed? Every Saturday. That's what I've been doing for 7 years. I'm always rollerblading, or always roller skating.
Rollerblading and roller skating is very different. I learned that the hard way.
I hadn't roller skated since I was 12. I see, just lie initially, figure it out later. It's just acting. And then when they're like, oh God, that's great. Okay, good. So auditions will be, we just want to see you on the track. And then you're like, oh shit, can I arrive with this fib I just told? And that's what determines if you're in it or not.
What did that first time around the track look like?
It's funny because this goes back to my talent show in 5th grade. I'm sorry I have these stories. I did not prepare, but I envisioned I did a little bit of gymnastics as a kid, and I took dance. But what I envisioned in my mind and what I did on that stage were two total different things with no preparation. I was like, yep, I'm gonna do an aerial into the splits, and then I'm gonna sing this song. I was in the 5th grade. None of that happened. But that quality is what helped me forge a rock and roll band. It's what helped me get Whip It. But then I train up. I think I envision it, and then what's it, Field of Dreams? If you build it, they will come. I envision it, and then you have to walk into and do the groundwork.
Very random question that just popped in my mind. But when you were first starting out, you know how you have like the special skills section? What was like the most either random skill you had on your list there, or maybe the skill you had that you couldn't do there?
Did I lie? Oh, I would have loved to see that. I'm thinking like fencing, but I don't think at 12 one needs to know fencing. I did have a special skill that's very much what I did at the time. I rode horses, so I could jump horses. I was just joking with the hair and makeup team that I'm a third place barrel racer winner. So, yeah, third place ribbon. And that was the beginning and the end of that career at 10 years old. But they time you and you go around barrels. I don't know. It's more Western. Anyway, equestrian. I had that in my history. But then I had to do that 20 years later, and I developed fear and was not the same as then. And then I had to retrain, which I'll be doing coming up, actually.
If you had the opportunity to learn a new skill or about a different profession through a role in the future, what would you pick and why?
100% dance, and just lean more into it because it's something I started when I was younger. I make these funny jokes that my dad raised a quitter. He let me quit everything. Karate, singing, piano, gymnastics, ballet. Because if my teacher made me feel bad or small, which that's sad when they do, I was like, I'm out of here. And I would tell my dad, and he's like, you don't have to go back. Both my sister and myself were like, was that such a good quality? Maybe you should have raised us more discipline. But it did shape up a fierce will in other directions about what I was interested in. But anyway, it would be dance. Well, now I have the old war. I was going to say fighting, but I'm like, I don't want to take a hit. No. Wait, what was the other one? Dance. Oh, I want to get into bodybuilding. I'm going to do that this year. Sorry. I'm a midlifer. That's what we do. We're like, how do we get these muscles to...
I am in awe of anyone who can do that.
I mean, not for bulk. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't know.
In the worst transition in the world, I wanted to touch on August Osage County because it surprised me to hear that you had auditioned for that role. Can you kind of give us a sense of how often you were auditioning versus getting offers at that point, and what it was about that role that made you so determined to go through that process and get it?
Tracy Letts. Oh man, his writing. Wow, that script. His writing, I hadn't seen writing like that, where the characters were so specific and they leapt off the plate. Talk about, you would never touch a single word of that. It came from a play. Every once in a blue moon, there's a job where it's fiercely competitive, and they'll have people who have done a lot of things in their career audition. Because also they might be thinking, no, because I'm always trying to do the thing you have not seen me do. And sometimes people want to hire a person because they've seen you do the thing. And I'm into not wanting to repeat myself. So that's why, like, even if it's a Southern character and a thing, I think now I would want to do a better version of whatever I did when I was younger. Oh my God, I'm so talking so much. What are we saying?
Auditioning for August
Osage County. I auditioned, and not to be, but the camera guy wiped tears. And I was like, oh, I think I did a good audition. Because of the scene. It was the ending scene. I don't remember any of the names of my characters half the time. I don't remember her name, but it was so moving to me. When she says, I'm not, she wants to take this trip. Do you remember the ending? August was just
definitely not the specific line.
She had this fiance that was like cheating on her, but she lived, it was all about denial and living in illusions and hanging on desperately to that. And the illusion was cracking, and it was like her whole world was falling apart. Oh, I think she was still gonna go on the vacation with him. And she knew what she was doing. Oh, I have chills. It's so moving to me. Anyway, I auditioned for it. That has a very wicked, horrible entity over that person that's being tried in a criminal case that we don't need to mention that person's name. But that person was blocking, I initially didn't have that part. And then a couple months later, I got the call, and it was very exciting that I had that part. And to me, I was elated because, I mean, Meryl Streep, oh my gosh, I got to sit. And Sam Shepard, we all had a dinner. Oh my gosh. No, and Sam talked about Patti Smith.
Even after all the incredible people you had worked with in the past, was there anyone on that set that even had you shaking in your boots before you got onto it?
Yeah. I mean, it was Meryl Streep. I asked her to take a selfie with me. I'm sorry.
I respect that more than you not asking her to take a selfie.
I mean, oh my God. And we've seen her. She's exactly who you'd think she is and better. She made us, idealist people, she just falls from the moon and the stars. She made us Christmas or gifts. That was a book. It's a wood framed, and my little character, it's almost like a dollhouse in a thing. But I was like, who creates this? Spectacular. She gave us gifts.
Making me think of a question I ask on my Collider Ladies Night series. I haven't asked it in a while, and I'm mad I haven't. I host a Collider Ladies Night series. It's focusing on women in the industry. Who is a woman in film and television that you think is changing the industry for the better right now?
Oh, there's changing. I think we're all on that wave. I mean, it's happening. Viola Davis. I just go to, I can't believe who I worked with Angela Bassett. Jennifer Coolidge, I have not worked with. But how happy when you see people in this wild roller coaster industry get props, like Jennifer Coolidge. Like, yes, queen, like anytime. Just because some people, it just never happens. So changing the industry to me is people talking the talk, walking the walk, making brave choices, being who they are, and also imbuing this industry with adventure and magic and light and brevity and all kinds of stuff that we want in our dramatic and comedic spaces. And yeah, there's a lot of incredible people.
Here's a name that comes to mind that I want to know what it was like working with. Also, I'm obsessed with the movie Ma. Octavia Spencer.
Yeah. Oh my God, I didn't mention Octavia Spencer.
I've watched Ma too many times since it came out and could still keep watching it. What was it like watching her take enormous swings and crush it in that role?
Well, now I want to just give the floor to Octavia, because there she was. She created that. Her and Tate Taylor, who the director of Ma, they go back many years. And they were both struggling in this industry together. So just to be around that partnership, and also that was Octavia, taking the bull by the horns. She was number one on that call sheet. That crew was predominantly, we shot in Mississippi, hugely beautiful, diverse crew, and mostly female in all the head positions. Very, was a radical wave, a radical set. I've done things in New Orleans that is, it's not radical when it's normal, you know what I mean? But if you grow up on white male-dominated sets, so you're just like, oh, I guess it's just white guys like the movies or like to be on cruise. And then you realize that there's a whole world of people who are really incredible at their jobs, and now people can have the spaces more than before. And Octavia made sure of that, and so did Tate and his producing partner John. And she did some wild acting in that.
She is also, like, that movie is so rewatchable, but she is also now the most delightful meme from that movie. Just Ma pops up in my life all the time, and I'm here for it.
She had a hand in everything. The wig, and she's just like looking around corners. I love that movie because I'm not really a horror genre person, but it was almost a throwback to 80s movies. Anyway, I loved everything about it. It was pretty cool.
Bringing up Tate, it's making me think of something that I read, that he wanted you for the help, but you decided to pursue your music at that point. What inspired that particular choice that felt right to you in the moment?
Let's rephrase that. Tate told me years later he wanted me for the help. I was on the road. Oh. And so when you're on the road and you have, 3 months booked in all over the world, it wouldn't have mattered. I would basically told I'm not available, so nobody was going to tell me about what was coming my way. He only told me years later when we worked together. Now we've been fortunate to work together a few times, and I hope to do it again because he's really special.
More collaborations with him, and you're also crushing it with your music too. Is there anything about having focused on that craft for a period of time that when you got back to film and television sets, you found influencing your work there?
Yeah. Yes. No, I laugh because I don't know who's toured in bands or in a rock. Okay. It's not for the faint of heart. It's so much fun, but it can be exhausting. Especially, I was like a writer, director, producer. I wrote songs. I had the shows. It was really my creative everything. And so to go back to being a hired gun, working in film and television, I was like, I can just focus on one thing at a time. The director can direct, the writers can do their thing, the ADs can do, it was like then I was just focusing on one part of the creative puzzle. Music's a lot, especially I'm an independent musician, so there's no one steering the ship. It's me and a few folks, and we try to make stuff happen with people and have that magical exchange.
I've never seen live, but I did watch a lot on YouTube, and my God, that energy, you just crush it.
No, I look up like, oh my God, how is she gonna do it again? I will, but it'll be different, a little bit different. I got a few injuries, that's all. We'll just move a little bit, slightly more conservatively, but.
Understandable.
Okay.
I'm going to toss it
Yeah.
to the audience questions, but first I want to throw in one Yellowjackets question because that's a special series. You've done some good shows before, but that show seems to have hit in a very uniquely special way that doesn't happen very often. So when you were signing on for that, what signaled to you that that was a possibility in the script, but then also in the type of collaboration that the people at the helm were orchestrating there?
Well, I'm a big believer in especially the more you do these things, not getting into the expectation of things. So it's like what it is here and what it was on the page. The script was so remarkable. I only read one script. And then you meet with the show creators and they tell you and you use your imaginations to understand each other. And it seemed like it was a fun ride that I wanted to take. But outcomes, they're out of my hands and they're in the people's hands. So I'm also a big believer in art is like, once you do the thing, they own it. You know, it goes out and you have that exchange. So that's pretty cool.
Your instincts were spot on based on that first script. That show is incredible. I don't want to waste time, but I wanted to find that musical question so I can credit it to someone. We're going to get to it, I swear. All right, I'll just start with this one for now. From Tally, how do you pick the projects you work on? Is there a particular process you go by?
Yeah. It's always going to be the people involved, and I'm open to directors who are new, but I always want to make sure that they're surrounded with some experience, whether it's in the producer or the DP. But I really love people who are trying to do new things in cinema and TV. I don't really care to do something that I'm like, oh, this feels like this show and this and I want the untried. And also I'm looking always for a part that I've not played before or something that I could do something new in. Yeah.
All right, I found it. From Andrea, I believe. I understand you like to sing. Would you ever consider acting in a musical ever?
Yeah, it's, yeah. Yeah, you know, because I get that question of like, what's your dream project? I think a jazz singer. I learned to sing off of imitating like Billie Holiday and those songstresses. Anita O'Day. For a while, she's this jazz singer. I wanted to tell her story, but those things can be complicated, getting rights and stuff. If you've never heard of Anita O'Day, she's very joyful, the songs I remember. But yeah, I would want to, but I'm also very snotty about it, because I don't know if you've seen, besides amazing musicals, the ones that really hit, there's so many things that they had, like a singer or something, and it's not, anyway. I'm being critical. Yes, that would be a neat marriage.
I would like to
really
see that
like
happen.
that, yeah.
All right, this one is from Betsy. What is the best thing about being an actress? What is the worst thing?
Well, these days, how am I gonna read? Being a midlifer, is that gonna be the frickin', I should just get a t-shirt now. I've done my time, or we're still serving, or whatever it is. What was the question?
The best thing about being an actress and the worst.
Oh, people is the best thing. I don't know. Oh, this is what I like about this industry. You never have the same experience twice. That's wild. It's a wild combination of storytelling and who's going to be involved and the filmmakers and show creators. And so those combinations I like alchemy. So even in music, I like writing with people rather than just being a solo artist. So that's the best thing. Oh yeah, and just transforming, playing with energy and then transforming. I could go on all day about that question, actually. It gets real magical, what I love about it.
I would let you go on, but we have a couple more to get to here.
Oh wait, but now I sound very non sequitur. When I said midlifer, meaning, you said what's the worst? I don't like to talk about too much like what's too negative about things that I'm actually committed to doing now.
Can I rephrase that in a positive way?
Right.
Instead of maybe the worst, what's like a specific area of your craft that you see room to grow in for yourself that you're excited to tackle?
I was gonna say patience, and I was like, like we don't have much time left. I think I'm working on being, I don't know, because it's a balance between being driven and wanting things to be phenomenal, but then also allowing things to be how they might become. So again, it's that whole dance of expectation and will and being present in the moment. I do have to say, I just always lean into the space and the crew, people around me. If I'm not getting my needs met in other creative departments or something, I always I like camaraderie. I really like the camaraderie of crews, and I'd like to see there be less stress on sets, and I'd like people to be told they're doing a good job, if not daily, weekly.
I like that answer. All right, this one is from Kate. What was your favorite role to play and why? What was your most difficult role and why?
I mean, we've kind of touched on some of these things. How are you all doing? Sitting on the board. We didn't even have popcorn. Okay, wait. The favorite, these are audience questions?
These are the audience questions.
Okay.
Favorite role to play and why, but then also the most difficult role to play and why.
It is so hard to pick favorites because some are favorite in hindsight, difficult while you do. The Other Sister was very special for a lot of reasons when we did this. It had so much heart. So it was a very heart-centric experience, and Gary Marshall was so joyous, and him and I oddly had this sixth sense when directing. I would come up to him and and we also we ate all the time. So he always had his mouth full, and he'd be like, so I think in this scene, I was like, yeah, I should do yes, and then we would just had a shorthand. That was really cool. Natural Born Killers is just like, over time, I keep being grateful for it. There's no movie on the planet that could be similar to what that work experience was. It was the Wild West, and it was like the traveling circus, and it was dramatic and funny and wild. So many stories of that one movie that I almost want to write a book called Living Dangerously about that thing. I mean, a crew guy I found a mouse. There's so many stories, and then a crew guy made a cage, and then I was like trying to heal the mouse. I mean, there's so many metaphors, there's so many side stories to that.
All right, this one is from Shantae. You brought this up earlier actually, and I was thinking about this question. How do you stay sharp when you're not working on set?
You mean of the invested? Is that what we're asking?
Basically, when you're on set and maybe there's a lot of time in between scenes that you're filming, how do you stay sharp even during that period of downtime? Yes,
this is where I get in touch with the physical. This is where I do the electrolytes. Oh, I go outside. I like to walk. I mean, fortunately, Yellowjackets, there's majestic nature everywhere. So I like breathe it. You just your brass tacks, your fundamentals. Breathe in oxygen. Look at the trees. Like create space, because that waiting and the thing in the trailer. And I also use music. But I have to fuel my body. Jennifer Garner, when we worked on this show called Camping, she would lead everybody in push-ups and squats. Be like, all right, let's do 10. I was like, wow, she knows what she's doing. I recommend just doing, 5 to 10 squats at any point in the day. I'm telling you, it'll give you some energy.
Squats and stretching. I always have to remind myself of that. I have 3 here from Wendy. I am going to pick. Do you have this is going to be hard. Do you have a favorite actor you've worked with?
So many. Have I not talked about Brad Pitt this whole time? He was phenomenal. We did this movie, California, and I love actors that are just making bold choices, and that's what he was doing. He had never, I mean, this is before, 12 Monkeys. Early on, it was funny, our history together is that he came from Dallas, Brad Pitt, the soap opera, and I came from bad 80s sitcoms. And we met when nobody knew our names. And we lost our anonymity together. So we have this very interesting period of an artist's life. And then we worked on a couple projects together. But man, he just wanted to go for it. And I felt connected to that. But he played Early Grace in California. He didn't wash his hair for a month. So that was cool. No, he was really fun. Him, oh my God. Leo DiCaprio, are you kidding? George Clooney, De Niro, Benicio del Toro. He was a riot. He's intense. He's hilarious because we did this movie called The Way of the Gun. You all know Benicio del Toro's work? He's an unsung hero. I just love people who are so much their own thing. But we do this movie, and it's Chris McQuarrie, who's brilliant. He writes this tapestry of a story. And I'm sometimes a little bit simple when it comes to thrillers or I don't know what they call this, a crime drama. Okay. But anyway, I was asking Chris all these questions like, why do the cops come and then this happen? Well, why that? And I was just asking all these questions, and Benicio pulls me aside outside, and he's like, it's good you're asking those questions. Yeah, that's what you should be doing. Like I was challenging him, and I was like, oh no, it's because I'm clueless, and I need the answers. But it was very much like he thought I was like challenging them, and he was so cute. I was like, all right, I'll let him believe I'm that tough and cool. That's cool.
I've got two more here. I want to get to them both before we have to wrap up. This one we have talked about a little bit, so if you want to swap in a different title, feel free. But it was a question from DJ. Please tell us things you learned about the craft as well as yourself as a young actor in Cape Fear. I'm trying to think of maybe a title we haven't brought. We haven't talked a lot about From Dusk Till Dawn. Maybe something you learned about your craft from that one?
Yeah. Who are these people who asked the...
These are people out here.
Who's DJ?
DJ? Hi, DJ.
I went right to the pyrotechnics difficulty in From Dusk Till Dawn where this set blew up. You learn things the hard way. We're like, all right, I won't do that again. Don't stand too close to the fire. What did I learn? Oh man, that's just camaraderie. That's what that was a real fun shoot From Dusk Till Dawn. You had Harvey Keitel, softening. We all were like forced to just lean in. We were all in the desert where I think the temperatures got up to like 130 degrees. There was sandstorms. You're just in the elements and you learn how to ride it out, show up for work, do the thing, and then the whole crew and all the actors, you jump in the pool at the end of the night. That was the thing. We all were at the same hotel, I don't know, in Taft and different parts of the desert. Those are experiences I treasure for all time, yeah.
I've got one last one here, and I feel like this is a good one to wrap it all up. It's from Lacey. What advice would you give to your younger self now?
Kind of all the things I'm doing now, which is, am I going to go into an Eagles song? Is that insane? Take it easy, take it easy. You know, what's that next lyric? I don't know.
Wheels make you crazy.
Don't say what?
Don't let the sound of your own wheels make you crazy.
Oh my God, I mean, take it easy. Don't let the sound of your own wheels drive you crazy. I have what's called a psychic radio where a lyric will drop down every time I need it. It's not like the Eagles are my favorite band, but that's apropos. I would say that to my younger self and to take more walks, commune with nature, I got really into hiking, like 10-mile hikes, and spending lots of time where you just go into silence and get into your own breath because you simplify. And there's so much hustle, there's so much hostility, there's so much in the external world that when you learn how to simplify, you're just building that core of music and magic to keep it soft but strong. And then you can go back out into the frenzy, just a little more conditioned. But it takes some conditioning, and I didn't know how to do that when I was younger.
I feel like now I'm going to go on a hike and listen to that Eagles song on repeat.
I don't think my younger self would have been into the Eagles, just P.S., but we are now.
Juliette, thank you so much for your time today and for revisiting some of your journey with us.